welcome back to my nail corner. I am not gonna lie to you, I was pretty nervous about this one, and I'll explain that in just a second. But first, let me show you these 3 gorgeous colors that I picked out of my West Coast Dips collection. Yep, you saw it right. That is gel base. We are going to do the gel method to apply these beautiful colors today. That pink is called Sunkissed, the gray is called Shady, and that gorgeous gray glitter is called Steel. I highly recommend you pick these up. I love a gray and pink combo, so they were just perfect when I reached for my swatches and looked through. They were calling my name, and I thought it would be good to do 3 different colors, like a light, a dark, and a glitter, to truly just test out this method for you guys. Now, I've done the gel method on this channel just one other time, and I'm not gonna lie, I was not a huge fan of it, but I wanted to give it another shot. I wanted to walk through the process with you. I know a lot of people have dip flu reactions to dip liquids, so I did want to show an alternative. So you want to get just a small amount of gel base on your brush, just that little bead on the end. You really don't want a lot. You don't want a thick application. So I like to start kind of towards the center of the nail, push it up towards the cuticle line there. As you can see, my hand is not steady. I did this in the morning when I had only had coffee and no food in my stomach, so I was a bit jittery. So please forgive any of the shakes that you're seeing. But you just want to get up close to that cuticle line, and then you want to pour over the dip powder. Now, the reason you want to pour over instead of dip in is because that gel on your nail is not going to cure until you put it in your lamp. So if you dip into the powder, you could move that gel around and cause lumps and bumps or weird shapes. Now, one of the nice things about the gel method is it gives you time to clean up around your cuticle line. So if you're somebody that struggles with getting just a clean line around your cuticle on your sidewalls, the gel method is really nice for that. Now, I went and poured over some more powder because the gel kind of absorbs the powder just like your dip liquids do, but I wanted to give it a little bit more. Now, I'm not going to cure every finger one at a time, but I did just cure that one. I'm using a stiff bristled brush to just brush off the excess, and as you can see, that dip powder stayed put. Like, it works. Believe it or not, it works. So go with your comfort level if you do this method. If you wanted to just cure one finger at a time, you could even do a flash cure, like 10-15 seconds while you do the rest of your fingers. It's up to you. However, I will warn you that if you do not cure, like if I hadn't cured that pinky nail and then I bumped it on something in the process of doing my index fingernail, that it would get messed up, right? Because it's not going to harden, it's not going to cure until you put it in the lamp to cure the gel. Hopefully that makes sense. So I'm going to go ahead and pour over, like you can see here, on my index finger, and then cure that one. Now, for my next layer, I'm going to do my pinky and my index finger and then cure them both at the same time. So just something to keep in mind. It's not like it adds a ton of time. If you do a lighter color like this, you could do a 30-second cure. When I do the dark gray, I'm going to do a 60-second cure, and that is because a darker color is just more pigment for your UV or LED lamp to penetrate in order to cure the gel. So lighter colors are going to have an easier time curing. Darker colors might need a little extra time. So like in an overabundance of caution, I went with 60 seconds for the darker colored gray that you're going to see coming up. So I'm going to go ahead and do this second layer. And as I have more thoughts, like rewatching this process about things that maybe I experienced or understood newly while doing this, I will pop back in and share them with you. So hang in there and I'll be back in just a second. Okay, so here we are with that like medium to dark gray, and it is called Shady. So like I said, I like to go in towards the center of my nail to kind of lay that brush down, push the liquid up towards your cuticle line, and then drag it towards the free edge. The nice thing about working with gels in this method is you just have so much time to work. So I can just like do stroke after stroke of smoothing out that gel base on my nail. Also, gels are fairly self-leveling, which is really nice. I really found that it kind of reduced my filing time, to be honest. And I didn't have that experience the first time I did the gel method. I think I was going in too thick with my gel layers. It really just needs to be so thin. And like I said, you can just take your time. Really just make a nice, even, thin application with that gel base and then pouring the dip powder over. It was really just a very thin and even coverage. You could see those darker spots where maybe the gel absorbed more of the dip powder, so I poured over some extra. But like I said, thin, even layers give you a nice, smooth application. So I'm going to go ahead and do the thumb with the same gray. Now again, I ran the risk from not curing that ring fingernail before going to do my thumb that I could bump that on something. Oh, excuse me, that was an almost yawn. I thankfully did not bump it on anything, but totally a gamble. So decide if you're willing to take that risk or if you want to go ahead and flash cure each nail. Totally up to you. So the other thing is, as you can tell by when I reach to cure the nails, my nail lamp on my desk is like directly in front of me. It's just a convenient spot for it at the moment, but you want to make sure you take your gel liquid and move it to the side if that's kind of where your nail lamp is positioned. You don't want to leave your gels directly exposed to your nail lamp when you're curing. The bottles are typically, gels come in like a solid bottle, right? So it's either got like a white on the outside or black or whatever the case may be, but that is not truly going to protect your gels. So especially from like continuous exposure. So I try to get in the habit, and sometimes I miss, but I just kind of slide my gel off to the side so that it's not directly in the nail lamp rays, I guess is what you want to call it. I don't know. But just a caution. Additionally, if you have gels on like a nail desk or something and it's in front of a window, it's good to tuck those away, whether that's in a drawer or just out of the sunlight. The UV exposure can cause your gels to start to cure. So if you've opened like your gel base or your gel top and it's kind of clumpy and you feel like it's starting to harden, that's likely what happened. So I would just caution you to do that. And additionally, the reason I'm using a stiff bristled brush to really just get off that extra powder is I don't want powder getting into my gel. Like I don't want it contaminated. So I do recommend using like a stiff bristled brush, especially because when this comes out of the lamp, like that's fully hardened. It's not like dip base where you're like, maybe it's fully hardened or like it's cured enough, so to speak, that I can brush it off. Like this is going to be ready to be scrubbed when you come out of that nail lamp. So feel free to use a toothbrush or a scrubby brush and just get off all that excess powder. So I'm going to be back in a second to talk you through glitter. I think that's what I was most nervous about. So I just want to tell you what my thoughts were kind of leading up to it and then how it went. So I'll be right back. So here we go with the chunky glitter. This is called Steel. As I mentioned before, it is a gorgeous, like semi-chunky gray glitter, and it just calls my name. Like, oh, it's so pretty. I love it so much. So I was nervous about this because if you've put chunky glitter on your nail before, like I've done it, and even 5 years into this dip powder game, I can be like, this was not worth it. Why did I choose this glitter? I'm gonna file all day long trying to get it like not like to be super thick and just to be even, and then I'm gonna like file into a glitter and mess it all up. And so I was nervous about this with the gel method because of the encapsulation process. So I'll talk about that in just a second. But right now what you're gonna see me do is the same thing I have done on the other nails. Apply a thin layer of base and then pour over. So pouring over your first layer of chunky glitter, I recommend with dip liquids and with gel liquids. It just gives you a good base. So it's a nice thin base application. If there's a base pigment color to the chunky glitter, then you're going to have that down on your nail. It's going to catch some of the fine glitters, but not so much the chunky ones. So that's going to give you a nice thin base foundation, kind of like the backdrop to your chunky glitters that you're going to add in the second layer, if that makes sense. So it's just, like I said, filling in kind of the background, because if you just put a bunch of chunky glitters on there and have a clear background, like that could look cool, but that's not kind of the plan for these chunky glitters. So now we have like a foundation, some of the finer glitters are there, and now I've poured out the glitter into this cupcake liner, and you can kind of shimmy it and it'll bring the chunkier glitters more to the top. So we're going to apply the gel base again for our second layer, but for this one I am going to do like I would with dip base, and I'm going to lay my finger into those glitters. I want to catch those chunky glitters and just kind of fill it in really nicely. I will caution you when you do this just to lay it gently. You're not putting any real pressure or force down. You're just gently laying it into that dip, because not into the dip, into the glitters, because your gel base can still move around. So just gently place it in there. It will pick up the glitters. You'll be fine. But just remember that your gel base is still liquid on your nail surface. So now I'm using this precision tool to just kind of move things around. By the way, West Coast Dips just released a precision tool just like this one. I don't have it yet. The other end of theirs is actually a silicone tip for cleanup of gel around your cuticles. So if you're shopping on the West Coast Dips website, definitely snag one of those because it's beautiful. Theirs is like a really nice black with like clear, I don't know what you call those, like gems in the middle. It's really pretty, very classy. So check that out. But anyway, I'm just using that precision tool to kind of move around the chunky glitters to where I want them. I'm still gonna just ever so gently like tap with my finger to make sure it's as flat as possible, because again, I was really nervous about the filing process for this chunky glitter. But now we've got it all in place. It's all solidly there because we've cured it, right? So I dusted off the excess glitters from my finger. I'm gonna clean up my desk surface here. I wanted to show you guys, I'm gonna like speed this up because nobody needs to see it in slow motion, but I've shown you before, this is my little desk vacuum. It's just this handheld rechargeable vacuum, and I love it for my desk surface, just cleaning up all those glitters before I go into any further application where I don't want contamination. And then I just grab like a Lysol wipe and wipe down this mat that I have. I actually just replaced this mat because I had dripped activator on it, and it leaves like white splotches on the mat, and it bothered me. I have these placemats in my dining room, and I was like, these tolerate my kids and have never been destroyed, so I'm gonna use those. So I'll let you know how that works out, and if they're awesome, then I'll give you the link because they were from Amazon a while ago, and they seem to tolerate everything, so we'll see if they can tolerate nail chemicals. So anyway, I'm going in with my my gel base again. So if you've watched me do dip manis recently, often this is how I finish my mani. So you're kind of like, what's going on, Kate? Those need filing and fixing up. Now, when you're using gel liquids, you don't want to encapsulate with clear dip powder because for whatever reason, clear dip powder and gel base or top don't work well together. Like this clear doesn't absorb into the gel liquid like it does into dip liquids. So you're going to end up with like a cloudy, fuzzy looking situation, and it's not going to be what you hoped for. So do not encapsulate with clear dip powder or clear acrylic when using the gel method. What you want to do is encapsulate with your gels. So I'm doing a layer of gel base, and then I'm going to do a layer of gel top. And then that will be my encapsulation layer so that I can file. Now, I was nervous about this because you've heard me talk about West Coast Dips gels before. I love them because they are just so nice and thin and smooth. Well, I was like, how's this chunky glitter nail going to be protected by these thin liquids? But I was willing to risk it. So I put a nice generous layer on that nail of gel base, really trying to make sure I got kind of in all the nooks and crannies of those gels or of those glitters so that it was nice and like even. And then after applying that gel base, I'll do what you've seen me do before and kind of hang my hand upside down and let that gel self-level towards the surface of the nail. And then we're going to go in with our gel top. So I had a reasonable margin, not a big one. I didn't go crazy with the filing, but I have to say, I didn't really have to. This gel method worked out really beautifully, and I didn't have to do a ton of filing. And you'll see that in a second because I will show you right before I go and file and then right after. And it just was not a ton of filing work. If you're worried about having to file a chunky glitter like I was, you could do builder gel over that glitter and file that. And that's going to give you a great thick margin. And oh my gosh, if you've seen a builder gel encapsulation to glitters, it's like glass encased glitter. It's so beautiful. So I do recommend, if you need a bigger margin for filing, I would highly recommend, if you have a clear builder gel, encapsulating that glitter in builder gel. You won't regret it. So I'm going to finish up the gel top coat. I am going to buff and file off camera, and then you will see the transition from before filing to after filing, so you can see it wasn't a ton of effort in that area. So I'll be back in just a second to wrap this up. Never mind, not even a second, because we're already done with the encapsulation. There you go. Now I filed and buffed. It's like the same. But there really wasn't a lot to do. So if you are, I guess in summation, if you are somebody who struggles with dip flu, I should explain what dip flu is for those of you who are new to dipping and don't know what it is. Some people have a reaction to dip liquids. I actually have a mild reaction to it. I usually wake up the next morning after doing a mani, and I have the sniffles or sneezes just for a couple hours in the morning maybe. I have a pretty mild reaction. Some people have respiratory responses where they feel tightness in their chest, they do get super congested, they get headaches, so on and so forth. If the dip liquids do that to you, that's not pleasant. Nobody's going to look forward to doing their nails if they have to feel sick every time that they do them. So if you're somebody that struggles with dip flu, number one, try out the gel method. See if it works for you. If you're okay with using a gel lamp, if you don't have an allergy to gel products, this might be the ticket for you. If it's not, you could also try out, there are a couple of brands, Triple D is one of them, Sparkle & Co is one of them, that has a delicate dip liquid. And well, that's what Triple D calls theirs. Sparkle & Co calls them low scent, I believe. And they truly, I've tried the Triple D ones, the base and the top coat have no scent. I could not detect a scent when I sniffed them. The activator still has a bit of a scent. In fact, the activator, it has a different scent than regular activator. It kind of smells like mothballs, which is very strange. But people's dip flu reaction isn't generally to the activator, it's to the base and the top coat. So those having no odor really eliminates that dip flu reaction. I don't understand the science of it, but I'm telling you, I've tried them and it works. So just be aware those tend to have a slower dry time, so just be patient to let them dry before you dust off your excess. But again, if you are somebody who suffers from dip flu, I would consider trying the gel method. I highly recommend the West Coast Dips gels. In this video, I'm using their regular gel base and their quartz glossy top coat. I did just receive their HEMA-free gels, and I'm trying those out. I did try out the top coat because I so love their top coat that I don't know, I wanted to try it and see how it compared. And I'll tell you, the HEMA-free top coat is just as glossy and gorgeous and thin and just like a great application as their regular. So if you're somebody who has a HEMA allergy, then check out their HEMA-free gels because they're the bomb. Like I'm super excited to be able to tell you guys that they're just as good as the regular gels. So definitely check those out. I did go ahead and top coat my thumb, but I just did it separately and off camera because you guys just didn't need to see that all over again. But here's the finished mani, you guys, with the gel method. Now, I will say that the gel method is not as strong in my opinion. So if you're doing this over your natural nails, I would consider an extra layer. I have extensions on my nails, so they have strength added from the jelly tips that I'm using. But if you're just doing it on your natural nail and you have a bit of length, I would add an extra layer. It's just not as strong as dip. So now I've put cuticle oil on to hydrate my cuticles. I wanted to show you my swatches, which were done with dip liquids against my nail. It was a very minute, half a fraction of a shade different in the pink. The gray looked exactly the same, and I'm doing this because some colors can vary a little bit when done with the gel method, but these turned out perfect, and I just wanted to show you guys those comparisons. So I hope this helped you. If you have any other questions about the gel method, please drop a comment below and let me know. I'd appreciate it if you would like this video and consider subscribing. I will see you in the next one. Bye now.